Well, good afternoon, everybody. The H1B guy here, and today is Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. The H1B guy live discussing the travel ban impact, my Twitter feed being full of appointments being canceled, discussions around the H1B lottery, and a whole lot more, and taking your Q&A as well. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube and like this video so that I can continue to produce more content like this for you. I also wanted to remind everyone that the H1B Guy offers a variety of consulting services. I help businesses and individuals solve complex work authorization issues in the recruitment process while bringing awareness to employment-based immigration benefits. If I can help you, please reach out. I'd love to hear how. Today's live stream is brought to you by RecruiterNetworks.com, the smart solution for digital perm ads since 2001, and also by Path to Canada. Path to Canada provides the ideal plan B for high-skilled immigrants currently located in the U.S. whose status may be uncertain. If you're facing an H-1B denial or OPT expiration, don't get caught off guard. Make sure you have a plan B, and Path to Canada is your answer. Well, I think that, it kind of goes without saying, it's a lot going on right now. But for those of you who may have had an opportunity yesterday to join Syndesis CEO Mark Pavlopoulos and Daniel Mendenbaum, Canadian immigration attorney, in their webinar yesterday, where they were discussing how American tech companies are retaining top tech talent utilizing Canadian immigration options. There is a live recording that is available, and I also believe that they're going to post that session to YouTube. So if you're not already, make sure that you subscribed to Mark on his YouTube channel, and I'll share that in the description of the video. There was a lot of good information and really a lot of good Q&As that came out of that content yesterday, and it went for about an hour and 15 minutes. I think, as you can see, Mark is very creative in his solutions-oriented approach. And, if you watch Daniel at all, you just see the confidence and his understanding of Canadian immigration law. Very impressive. So please make sure to subscribe to Mark on YouTube. And if you haven't already, get a chance, check out the webinar. I'll be sure to share that link. I wanted to move into this impact of the ongoing travel ban for India, specifically for non-immigrant workers. I think if you look at any of the social media out there that's talking about this and its impact, I think this thing, meaning the ban itself, stretches pretty far and wide. I think over the last couple of weeks, as we watched the COVID cases escalate, and the number of deaths escalate as it relates to COVID-19 in India, I felt like this was something that was going to be imminent. And then, of course, we saw that news come down, about 10 days ago with the timeframes around the ban. There were a few stipulations, but the primary point is that, anyone that was on a non-immigrant work visa, H1, L1, specifically, that maybe traveled to India to see family or be with family, is now part of a ban that is ongoing through the end of each month. And as I said, I could see this staying in place through the summer, maybe into September and October, which I think is a pretty tough realization. I had someone that had contacted me through YouTube that had an appointment for May 21st. Visa was approved, appointment was finally in place, and it was canceled. I know of other individuals that had appointments that were confirmed and that have been canceled. So what we're seeing is the consulates now are going back into lockdown. And unfortunately, the statistics and the numbers of the cases and the deaths warrant that. So impacted are those who were either on an H-1B here in the US, and maybe your I-94 or stamping had expired and you left the US to go see family and go through the stamping process, or those new H-1Bs. Specifically, we're looking at fiscal year 2021 H-1Bs that maybe haven't had a chance to enter in, those from India. And again, right now we're in the process of fiscal year 2020, 2022 for those. And as I said, I think, you look at it, and if I'm an H1 who is yet to enter into the US, I'm right now making plans for next year. And that's pretty crazy. But for those that have lived and worked in the US, who left family here to go be with family, who have assets here and are unable to enter, this thing is going to have a very lasting impact. And I think you see that. You're talking about mothers being separated from children, fathers being separated from children. You're talking about employers who are losing lost production if the employee can't work remotely offshore, which we know that they can't, based on kind of the H as it relates. It'd have to be an intercompany or international type transfer. So you have the employers who, they're losing productivity, and they're losing it based on this ban. And then that doesn't even go without saying the employees. You're talking about lost wages, and I mentioned, the assets and the responsibilities that they've left behind here. But one of the things, as I alluded to a few minutes ago, that I think is really interesting are these appointment cancellations, because the appointments have been extremely difficult to come by. And when you look at some of the numbers and the statistics that have been out there, we've talked about, 26% of all global consulates are open. So that creates a lot of problems. And I think what you're seeing now are some creative solutions. And what are those? Like, could you, leave India, go to, say, Dubai for 14 days, quarantine there, potentially get an appointment, and then have the opportunity to enter in the US? I don't know. I mean, I think if you look at the way it reads, it's pretty specific, although it does talk about the travel dates, right? And the time period and the time frame, 14-day period that it's showing. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this is handled over, really through the end of this month and June into July, at least. And, thoughts and prayers with those in India who are impacted by this, whose family is there and you're here, and the anxiety and the stress that's created around that. Very difficult. And I think it's something, honestly, when you look at it, it's pretty significant. And we've talked about, how COVID has changed our society and how we live, work, and play. And unfortunately, you see some of the negative impacts of that going on right now. So just wanted to ask you, if you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. I know some of you have already put your comments here in the chat. I've got a few things here that I'm going to go through and cover. I'd love to take a good amount of Q&A. We'll talk about that a good bit. There's been a lot of news recently, but it's been minor news, right? I think it hasn't been that legislation news that we've been looking for, but there's been some minor news that's been happening. So if you have any questions, comments, whatever is on your mind, travel ban, these appointments being canceled, the difficulty in getting a consulate appointment, questions around the H1B lottery. I know that's something that's been very popular here recently in terms of folks reaching out and asking me about what my thoughts are on a second H1B lottery. Of course, I did a video around that. If you haven't had a chance, I know a lot of you have already checked that out, but the link is in the description of this video. Advise you to check that out. As I said there, I don't think so, but I've been wrong before, and it could be possible. So don't hold it against me if it does happen. What's interesting, though, is that H1B lottery paper filing period that we've talked about. As you know, the lottery was in March of this year. March 25th was the last day. Those were selected, were notified by March 31st. and that there is an initial sort of 90-day filing period that began on April 1st and runs through June 30th, 2021, which gives employers 90 days to submit the full paper petition. And as I've joked about, signed in blue ink, right? So I did a quick little digging, and it looks like right now we're at the 41-day mark into the filing period. So over the weekend, it'll be halfway home in terms of employers and their window of time to submit that full paper petition. The good news is for employers is you have until that 90th day. And as long as USCIS receives that case on that 90th day, then you're in good graces. But you kind of look back at what are employers doing right now, specifically for those that are in India that were selected, as we talk about a lot. 70% of H1Bs come from India, 18% come from China. If I'm an employer and I have a brand new H1B that's going to be in India, I know that I'm submitting this paper petition right now with the hopes for approval of October 1st, 2021. But the likelihood of this employee or this beneficiary being on the ground here in the US by that time, I think is unlikely. And I think that employers looking at that now are going to have to make some modifications and adjustments. And so as that happens over the next few weeks, what impact will that have on the possibility of a second lottery? I mean, I think, again, we're still in these unprecedented times. This is year 2 in the electronic selection process with the paper filing 90-day period that follows it. Both have been held in the post-COVID era. And so very interesting to see. Of course, we'll continue to track it, and we'll keep track of the dates as they come through. But just, this is where the process is different. And this is where when paper filings were done and everything had to be received by April 1st, this is when we first started receiving notifications of approvals, selections. This was generally kind of mid-May, into June, when we started to expect to hear of a petition being selected in the lottery, whereas the electronic filing process is completely different, and it's really changed the game on how things are done right now. Of course, we've heard 20% selection rate, which would estimate over 300,000 electronic filing applications. We still haven't seen, I haven't seen anything official on that. If you have, let me know. I'm definitely interested in looking or seeing at what you guys maybe have come across in terms of the data around that. The other thing I want to talk about, I posted a video yesterday that was a Dear Sophie article on TechCrunch from Sophie Alcorn that talked about H1Bs transferring to their startup organization. And I thought that was a really good little article in TechCrunch, and I covered it, kind of gave some of my takeaways from it. But the biggest thing that I took away that I thought was really interesting, and while I'm familiar and aware of concurrent H1B visas, it wasn't really something that I had thought about as it relates to H1Bs looking to create their own startup. And so, what a concurrent H1B visa allows you to do is work at more than one company at the same time. And while it's not very common, it's definitely a great possibility for someone that's looking at a startup scenario for an H1B visa, H1B visa holder. The biggest thing, though, and this comes back to, is H1B visa holders can only own up to 49% equity stake in a company. So it means you have to have a partner that you know and trust, because that partner who you know and trust is going to control your performance evaluations, hiring, firing, day-to-day activity, and overall has right of control, as we talk about. So it's got to be someone that you know and trust. But I thought that concurrent H1B visa idea was really interesting because it doesn't have to be 40 hours a week full time. You can actually hold H1Bs and for simultaneous employers, as long as you're still with the primary employer of record, the initial sponsor, if you will, or whoever currently holds your H1B visa. So if you haven't had a chance, I'd like to ask you to check that out. It's called H1B Startup Advice. And of course, there is a link in the description below. So wanted to shift gears really quickly. We have really something huge to celebrate here on this channel. And that is that I think by today, this channel will have crossed the 100,000 view mark in less than 12 months. So actually less than 11 months. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone out there who's taken the time to watch one of my videos, join one of these live streams here. I'm just so humbled and amazed by the fact that my content's been consumed by you over 100,000 times in the first year. And I know that there are a lot of big YouTubers out there who get 100,000 views on every video that they post out there. But I think for me, it just is something that makes me realize, hey, we got to keep going. People are interested in what I have to say as it relates to employment-based immigration benefits, as it relates to the H-1B visa cycle and everything that is involved in that. But just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for watching my content. Thank you for supporting me and the H1B Guy platform as you have over these last 11 months. To get to 100,000 views in that amount of time is truly a remarkable accomplishment, and one that honestly I'm really grateful for. So just wanted to take a moment there and say thank you about that. By the end of the day, we're just, I think it was almost it was 99,580 something. So by the end of today, I'll have crossed over that mark, and just wanted to say thank you to everyone out there. The other thing I wanted to mention is there is a professor from the University of Redlands, and her name is Dr. Neena Gopalan. And she had reached out to me a month or two ago and asked if I would help assist her in promoting an H1B survey that she's doing as part of a fairly large book publication. Of course, this survey is 100% confidential. And just a little bit about Dr. Neena. She is an associate professor and associate director at the Banta Center for Ethical and Purposeful Leadership School of Business at the University of Redlands in California. So what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to drop this in the chat, and I'll bring it up too on the screen here. And that is, if you are an H1B currently living and working in the US, here's the link. And that is also in the video description below. If you have time, the survey is fairly long. I do want to warn you on that, but there's a lot of good questions in there. And I don't know, other than the study that was done by the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, if something kind of similar to this isn't as much around the backlog as it is about your quality of life living and working on the H-1B, your job satisfaction. So if you have a few minutes, I'd like to ask you to help Dr. Neena out as she works on bringing more awareness to the H-1B visa and the plight of those individuals that are in the U.S. working on H-1B visa. She herself is on an H-1B visa. She herself is dealing with the fear and anxiety of her parents being in India and going through this. So this is something I think that is very personal to her. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I'll also share this link on Twitter later. But the link in the video description below, please make sure you take the time to check that out. She's just the sweetest little thing. And if there's anything, I can do to help her in collecting this data, she's really looking to bring awareness. And so let me know if you have any questions around that. Just wanted to make you all aware of it. And again, just ask you for your support. And if you have a few minutes to go and complete that. So wanted to ask you again, if you haven't already, to please like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and make sure you click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we go live like we have here today. To do some questions around this impact of the travel ban, some questions around the H1B lottery, some questions around the visa bulletins that we talk about a lot here recently. So I'm going to move into those. There's a few questions already. If you have any more, please post those in. So we'll get to those here in a couple of minutes. So the first question comes from Kumar. Thanks for answering the questions. Does the cancellation of biometrics for H4 EADs apply to all those with pending applications on May 17th? Will this really help those of us waiting for adjustment of status for biometrics? Kumar, if you're referring to the adjustment of status from a perm employment-based perspective, I would think so, because what that would do is alleviate maybe a few thousand individuals who were still in the queue for biometrics appointments. But that's the way I understood it, is that those with pending applications after May 17th. So, what's that? That's 5 days from today, which would put us, let's see, 13th, 14th, early next week, I believe. Is that next Monday, roughly? Sorry, I don't have a calendar in front of me. But yeah, I think this is a big deal, and it's something that we talked about a good bit with Keely and Divya when they came on to talk about the EAD processing delay awareness specifically for H4 EADs, that a lot of folks just couldn't even get biometrics appointments, and that was creating a big gap in it. But not even that, just the whole confirmation of receipt. It seems like through the electronic filing, the I-765 electronic filing for H4 EAD, and through this, hopefully that's going to alleviate some of the issues in processing delays. But what it doesn't do is take away the loss of job, the loss of freedom, the loss of purpose, the anxiety and the stress that's been put on these spouses that haven't been able to work for a significant period of time because their EAD expired and because their cases weren't processed in a just time. Let's hope that this all changes for the better. But Kumar, I hope that answers your question. If it didn't, drop me a comment here in the chat. Again, kind of going through the Q&As. If you're joining us, please make sure to post any questions or comments that you have, and I'll get to those over the next few minutes here. Hey, Oscar, how you doing? Dr. Oscar Cabrisis of Stamp It Out Q&A 5 fame, I believe, Dr. O. Good to see you. Thanks for jumping in the stream here today. Appreciate all your support and everything that you've done for me and advised me, in terms of your friendship over the last year. It means a lot. And just thank you for taking the time to jump in. Hey, Winter Who, I know you had dropped me some questions on some of the comments of some of the videos this week. Is there any updates for EB category? I had somebody on my Telegram chat, and if you're not, make sure the H1B guy on Telegram, there's a channel and a chat. Make sure you're signed up for both of those. Links in the video description. But had shared, I guess, an interview that Charlie Oppenheim had done. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I guess he does do some predictions for July and August. I don't know if any of you seen that. If you have, let me know. But I think, kind of going back to my the H1B Guy forecast, June 2021 visa bulletin employment-based predictions. That video almost has 4,000 views on it already in a little over a week. And that's where, I said, I think we're looking at November 1st, 2020 for India. But it just looks like everything that's kind of happened over the last few months in terms of the forward movement is been pretty consistent. And I think it'll remain that way. The other thing I think is interesting, and that is, this was alluded to in the Chats with Charlie episode 2, and that is, 90% of the visa usage for 2021 is taking place. If you remember that visa usage was 262,000. Of course, 140,000 go to employment-based preferences, and then the spillover or fall down, however you want to refer it. So I think that's why you've seen the big jump in the EB1s, of course, is the usage there. And then we should begin, as we've seen, some of the jumps for EB2. What's going to be really interesting is September. And the reason why I say that is, the October bulletin over the last few years has really given us a lot of insight over what the next 12 months are going to be like. So we'll definitely keep our eyes on that. Winner Who, I appreciate you jumping in the live stream here today, and thank you for your question. If you have any other questions or comments, please put those in the chat here. Just wanted to jump on with all of you here this afternoon, talk about this travel ban that's been filling up my Twitter feed, talk about the separation of families, and how there's a lot of discrepancies in the interpretation of the travel ban. And I know a lot of you are dealing with a lot of frustrations around that. So, hey, Sid, appreciate it. Sid says, hey there, sorry, I just joined, so missed the first part, but any news regarding a second lottery by any chance later this year? I did not get selected in the first round. Yeah, I mean, I think you've probably watched my video, Sid, that I put out there a couple of weeks ago around, what's the possibility of a second lottery. I still am going to say that I don't think there will be one, but the travel ban it actually could help you here. And I say that because U.S. employers who have individuals that were selected that are currently in India right now, that are going through this paper filing period, may decide not to file. And the reason why I say that is because they're looking at it from the point of view of how long is this travel ban going to last? And if I make this investment in this individual and they are selected and approved, when are they actually going to be able to enter into the US and begin working for me? And so what you've got to think about is the thousands of dollars in investment that goes into that paper filing petition, knowing that the individual may not be able to come in and begin production, right, work for the employer until sometime into 2022. If there is a second lottery, though, I think you're looking at a very minimal number. I've calculated anywhere between maybe 2,000 to 5,000, which, if that's the case, that would significantly reduce your odds, unfortunately. But Sid, without knowing your situation, I would advise you, if you haven't started to think about Plan B, this is a good time for you to think about Path to Canada. There is an affiliate link in the video description. You can also find it on my website just by clicking on Path to Canada's banner that's on my website. I would advise you to go in and fill out that survey at least. You can also have the conversation with your employer about potentially looking at the global talent stream through Syndesis. If there isn't a second lottery and your visa does expire, you have a couple of options, but none of them are good, because ultimately, why? You want to stay, live, work, and be in the US. But I think the one thing that keeps coming up, and I keep coming back to as it relates to the second lottery question, is we're still in unprecedented times. We have an electronic filing process that was put in for the first time last year. And then COVID hits, really the quarantining and the lockdowns all started mid-March, and the height of the lottery. This year, it was going to be wage-based, then it was random-based, and then you saw, and I've heard of, after that was decided, a pretty significant increase in those numbers of electronic cases submitted, because it cost employers $10. Heck, I saw some marketing memes from some of these middlemen that are run out of basements that basically were cattle calls for folks that were looking to have their names submitted into the H-1B visa lottery. And that's where the problem comes, right? That's the problem with the electronic filing process for the H-1B lottery, is that if you just charge employers $10 and they could submit whoever they want, and then they're selected, then they've got time to prepare the paper filing case. I think that's where maybe a tweak to the H-1B lottery is in place. We'll see, though. I don't know. The other thing that I keep coming back to, and this is one of my predictions that I had at the end of last year, where I talked about, I think USCIS will implement electronic filing for I-129s for H-1B visas. The fact that they pushed back until the end of the year to review the wage-based selection for the lottery tells me that we could be looking at some sort of hybrid type system. With that hybrid type system, we could be looking at a hybrid of wage and random, or wage and wage level selection, period. But again, for this year, my answer's been I don't think so, but it could happen. And as I've said, I've been wrong before. Don't hold it against me. If it does happen, that number is going to be very small. I would calculate anywhere between 2 to 5,000. The current wild card, though, is this travel ban and how employers are going to handle it for individuals who are currently in India, and if they're going to continue with the paper filing process. So thanks, Sid. Says you're doing a great job and it's really been helpful. Thank you. Glad to help you, Sid. I think that's one of the things that is so fulfilling for me when I talk about this channel going over 100,000 views. And while I know there's a lot of other YouTubers that get that in one video, that's a really significant accomplishment for me. When I started this out, back in June, I didn't really know what to expect or where it was going to go, but I've made a lot of friends with people like you, Sid, who always come in and join the live streams. I've got a lot of folks that have reached out to me, just, kind of similar messages, thanking me for the awareness and the attention that I've brought here. And I think that's one of the things when I look at, we talk about the mission statement of the H1B Guy. Right? I help businesses and individuals solve complex work authorization issues. I do that. Those are my consulting services, and I do that in a variety of ways. But I also bring awareness to employment-based immigration benefits. And that's folks like you, Sid, who came to the U.S., most likely got an advanced U.S. degree, started working on your OPT EAD and then your OPT EAD STEM. You've been in the lottery 2 or 3 times and not been selected. And now you're faced with, what do I do next? Do I pay more money? Do I enroll in a CPT? Do I go back on F1? Or do I start to consider Plan B? And what's Plan B? Is Plan B a merit-based system? Express entry in Canada, or through GTS, getting up there, continuing to hold your job? Is it Australia, New Zealand, now the UK? I think, we're seeing and hearing a lot of individuals looking to go to school in Germany now. So why? And I think it comes back to the restrictive laws that we have that are archaic and based on 1990. Times have changed. This digital borderless society that we're now living and working in allows employers to basically have someone work anywhere they want them to work in the world, and there's no drop in production. So it's going to be really interesting for me to see what happens as it relates to some of the reform, some of the things that we've heard about, and you've heard about increasing the H-1B visa allotment based on the supply and demand. The total number that were submitted in the electronic filing period for this year is going to be very telling on how that will be leveraged going forward for legislation in Congress. So thank you, Sid. Glad to help in any way. Keep me posted and let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. Hey, Vamsi, how are you? Hi there. Do you expect 135K FB spillover or more to EB category for fiscal year 2022? Also, how likely will there be any FB spillover in fiscal year 2023 to EB category? Yeah, so, this year, it was 122,000 that spilled over, and 90% of those were used. I think next year, if you look at if it's 275,000, let's just say that there's no way the federal government's going to process 100% of those cases. So maybe that's another 90%. But the question is about family-based spillover. I think with the way that the international travel has been restricted, the way that the consulates are processing at a very reduced capacity, specifically these family-based cases that are generally processed outside of the U.S., I think you could be looking at another fairly significant spillover, or I like the term fall down, and that's the term that Charlie has used, is fall down, because that's really kind of what it is, right? The spillover, the fall down meaning any of the numbers past 140 start at EB1 and then work their way down. And so anyone who's an EB1, which dates are current now, basically, once an I-140 is approved, AOS can be filed, right? I-45 can be filed. So yeah, I think, as Charlie's alluded to, there's no way to expect the government to process 100% of these cases. But I also will say this, and I've mentioned this before, and I think that the thing about Charlie Oppenheim to me that's very impressive is how he is trying to use the fall down numbers to help alleviate and clear some of the backlog. But one of the things that constantly comes up as it relates to these visa bulletins and why people hate them is that, the dates for what April 2012 were the same as April 2021. That's an interesting fact, isn't it? Interesting, not in a good way, but reality is that these numbers fluctuate. And as long as we see forward movement and we don't see regression, I think that's at least positive. Now, is forward movement 7 days or is it 90 days? So, but good question, Vamsi. And, I think definitely going to be something that we're going to continue to talk about and continue to monitor here. If you have any other questions, definitely want to take a few more minutes here. Please post those in the chat. Any comments, any of you who are out there that are still tuning in. Just wanted to ask you again to like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we do go live, like I have here this afternoon. But wanted to just say again, thank you to everyone for all of your support over the last 11 months. The fact that this channel is going to go north of 100,000 views, just truly amazing to me, and lets me know that got to keep continuing to bring awareness, to bring honesty, and to bring some real opinions, right? Because that's really what I give you here are my real opinions, whether you agree with them or not. That's what they are. They're my opinions. So, hey, Vamsi, I know you're still tuned in. What do you think? I got a question for you. Do you think we're going to see 100K again for fiscal year 2023, which would be October of 2022, right? October 2022 would be the beginning of fiscal year 2023. But I don't know. What do you think? I think one of the things that Charlie did allude to in his episode 2 is that they're seeing an uptick in those family-based numbers. So that makes me think that number could be lower and could trend down. But hopefully by fiscal year 2023, we have some sort of legislation that has a plan to clear the green card backlog, has a plan to utilize these fall down and unused numbers to do so. So we'll definitely continue to monitor that and see where that goes over the next year or so. But I will say this: the next 2 bulletins I think are going to be really telling, because that's going to give us some insight as to what we can expect for October. And the October dates of filing is going to be very interesting, really in the India EB2 category. Right, because right now you're at May 15th, 2011. If we see a similar jump as we saw last year, maybe you're getting into January, February 2013 for dates of filing and EB2 on that October 2021 visa bulletin. I think that'd be good news for a lot of people that are out there. So just wanted to thank all of you who've taken time here to post a comment in the chat. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to remind everyone that today's post and today's live stream is brought to you by RecruiterNetworks.com, the smart solution for digital perm ads since 2001. This national job board network provides recruitment websites in 1,024 major U.S. metro areas. Each local job board is its own portal and is a low-cost resource for immigration recruitment ads for all industries and professions, with a flat price of $225 per ad, regardless of which city you choose. RecruiterNetworks.com has been the #1 place for immigration attorneys, immigration ad agencies, and employers to meet the DOL requirements for the digital portion of the perm advertisement rules. RecruiterNetworks.com. Tell them the H1B guy sent you. And this live stream was also brought to you by Path to Canada. Path to Canada provides an ideal plan B for high-skilled immigrants currently in the U.S. whose status may be uncertain. If you're facing an H1B denial or OPT expiration, don't get caught off guard. Make sure you have a plan B, and Path to Canada is your answer and will help you navigate the process. If you're interested in finding out more, please be sure to click the link in the video description below. I just wanted to say one more time. Oh, hey, Chatton. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Was just starting to wrap it up because I do have something today at 2 o'clock. But Chatton says, do I have any insights for doing premium processing for EB1 filing? My employer, Laura Fragman, says it leads to more scrutiny and higher chance of RFE and NOID. Well, here's what I'll tell you on that. Fragman has built towers for a reason, right? And they do that because the advice that they provide is pretty rock solid. And so my 2 cents on this is, if they're telling you to file it in regular processing and wait, the question that I would have for you, Chetan, is if I'm your employer, which is the role that I'm going to play here. As your employer, my legal counsel, who I have on retainer, is telling you not to do it, okay? And you are thinking, I need to do it because I need an answer in 10 to 15 days, and it's a guarantee, right? I'm willing to spend the $1,500 or whatever that fee is now to do so. But my legal representation is telling me that if I do that, it could lead to higher scrutiny and the chance of RFE. So it really comes back to your personal situation. And why I say that is, if you had a documented dreamer living in your house who may be aging out sometime in the next 6 months or the next 12 months, maybe that changes what your situation is, Chetan. But again, this is one of those where you may not like me to say this to you, but when the attorney is adamant about this, which it sounds like they are because you're asking me, I'm going to tend to side with them. And understand that for the attorney, they don't make any money on the premium processing fee for you. There's no additional revenue or income for the attorney to file your case in premium processing. So really, they don't care, meaning they don't care if you do it or not, because that's just how it's going to work. Yeah, so you have a spouse, you need the H4 EAD or the EAD GC, I'm assuming. Again, I think if I'm you, right, my advice to you is this. If your situation is critical enough that you're willing to risk it and risk an RFE and potentially a null, a no, right, then you've already made up your mind. But if I'm your employer or I'm your paid attorney here who's telling you that your situation doesn't seem to dictate the need for premium processing, then maybe you sit back on that. I know that probably isn't the answer that you want to hear, but yeah, I mean, I think, again, if I hear a higher probability of RFE and denial, I try to avoid those things just personally as an employer. If you were working for me, that's what I would be trying to avoid, is a chance of denial, a chance of an RFE, because your employer you may not know this, but if an RFE is filed or submitted on your adjustment of status, it actually costs your employer more legal fees and more filing fees. They're the legal fees, meaning the attorney who represents you at Fragaman is going to have to prepare a pretty significant request for evidence case that is going to check off every box that was sent on your RFE, those blue, yellow, green, pink sheets that we see sometimes. But Chetan, if you want to talk to me more about that, just reach out to me, h1bguy.com, or message me on Twitter if I can help you. I've got a few more minutes here. I see you've got another question, Chetan. If you want to put that in while I wrap up here, I don't mind answering it. If not, you can reach out to me directly. It's not a problem either way. Because I do, like I said, I wanted to wrap up. I have something today at 2 o'clock. I just want to jump in with every one of you here today for about 45 minutes up to an hour. I'm happy to help any of you who have questions. So Kumar asks, how long after PD becomes current under final action dates does it usually take to get GC, especially if biometrics are still pending? Okay, so here's my experience, and I do this. I answer this the same way on every time I'm asked this question. And you may say, well, that's 8 months of a range. And yeah, because processing times right now have increased that. I used to say plus or minus 2 months. Now I say plus or minus 4 months. So this is from confirmation of receipt that your AOS has been received. Okay. I say plus or minus 4 months from the 12-month mark. So the reason why I say that is I think 8 months is pretty much unprecedented right now. They used to average about 9 months roughly. But right now, I think we're seeing on average 12 months, if not 14 to 16 months. So Kumar, that'd be my best guess for you is somewhere between 12 to 16 months from the date of your receipt notice on your adjustment of status. Okay. But I'm really interested in this, Kumar. So help me track it for you personally. When you do get that, let's know how long it took so that we can have some information around that, and I can make sure that I'm speaking in pretty factual data here. But hey, thanks, Kumar. Appreciate your questions. So, Chetan, you're looking at an EB1B. I know that may be completely separate from your traditional EB1 employment base. Yeah, I mean, I think that gets a little bit more complicated, right? Because there's the extraordinary ability, I believe, comes into play here on the EB1B. If you want to talk to me offline about that, definitely can walk through that with you. You're a big supporter here of this channel and always here on the live stream. So you have another employer offering a new job, thinking if I should wait for my current employer to file the EB1B and get a result and then leave and join the new employer. New employer is smaller unicorn startup. Yep, that's what I would do if I were you. The unfortunate part is that you may be missing out on a dream job, but the question becomes your status, right? Unrestricted employment, as I talked about yesterday in the H1B startup advice. Unrestricted employment is the biggest thing I think for you. Getting to that, to me, is ultimately, I think, what your goal is, right? Getting there is the goal. And if you're right there on the door, then I think, then again, that would be my 2 cents. So just to go over the criteria for the EB1B, you must meet at least 2 of the 6 criteria listed below, providing offer of employment. Private employers must show documented accomplishments that it employs at least 3 full-time researchers. So again, it's international recognition for your outstanding achievements in a particular academic field. You must have at least 3 years experience teaching or research in that academic area, and you must be entering the United States in order to pursue tenure or tenure track teaching or a comparable research position at university, institution of higher education, or private employer. And so there are some documents that you've got to be able to provide: evidence of major prizes or awards, evidence of membership, evidence of published material and professional publications written by others, evidence of either a panel or individually as a judge of the work of others in the same field, original scientific or scholarly research contributions in that field, or evidence of authorship in scholarly books or articles. So I think the biggest piece of advice I can give you on that is you've got to have a lot of evidence that shows that you are an expert researcher, that you are respected, your opinion is respected, you've judged others' work based on your experience in that field. That'd be the biggest thing for the EB1B. I hope that helps you, man. I don't know if reputation really matters. To me, it just is a matter of, do they employ 3 researchers, right? Because that's what it says. 3 researchers or teachers must documented accomplishments, and that it employs at least 3 full-time researchers. Okay. So even if they're smaller, as long as they have 3 full-time researchers, I think that will help you there. So if you're looking for ways to support the H1B Guy platform, of course, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/the H1B Guy. The super chats are always open here in the live streams. If I can help you and we need to set up a one-on-one consultation, you can reach out to me through the H1BGuy.com. If your employer needs help in navigating this complex process as it relates to the employer side of things, please let me know if I can help you or your employer in any way. I'm working on some really big things that I'm really excited about to launch over the next couple of months, and I can't wait to break that news to all of you out there. It's just a continuation of the services offering that I provide here from the H1B Guy. And, one of the things that I've been doing recently is helping clients continue to avoid risk. And so really excited about a lot of the things that we're working on, but mainly today I'm celebrating 100,000 views. Thanks to all of you. And Chetan, man, I just thank you so much. You didn't have to do that, but thank you. I really appreciate the super chat and, you jumping in here. And like I said, don't hesitate. Reach out to me through the website, Twitter. If there's any way that I can help you and clarify your situation as you're navigating this process, I'd love to do so. Thank you for always being a loyal supporter here of the live streams. I want to thank Kumar. I want to thank my boy, Dr. Oscar Cabrices. Winner who, thanks for jumping in. If I didn't answer your question, please feel free to reach out to me. Sid, thank you as always. Sid, I just want to tell you, if you're still watching or you catch this on a later date, if the second lottery isn't a possibility for you, I'd like to employ you to consider Syndesis or Path to Canada as a plan B for you and your employer. Vamsi, thank you so much. Really appreciate your support. Think about my question to you. Do you think we'll see over 100,000 for family-based spillover fall down for fiscal year 2023? Kind of a piggyback to your question. And Chetan, good luck, man. Just I know that these questions create a lot of anxiety, and I think that's one of the things that's common is what do I do? And am I doing the right thing? And I just always come back to follow your gut, follow your instinct. If your attorney is advising you against it, more times than not, they're doing so for a reason, because traditionally speaking, they've seen a pattern in that, meaning a pattern in that processing, specifically as we talked about with the premium processing. So, and again, just wanted to close out by saying, if you haven't already, please like this video, Subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube and click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we go live like we have here this afternoon. I'm working on some cool stuff over the next few weeks, so definitely be sure to check back. Check out the H1BGuy.com for all your latest and employment-based immigration news, opinions, a lot of opinions, and maybe a little bit of advice. If you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to watch my video and join me here on this live stream today. I really, really appreciate all of your support. I'm Robert. I'm the H1B Guy, your global source for all things H1B.